Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by TonaLaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. TonaLaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out TonaLaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. Today's episode is what I call a redo. First time in 140 episodes I've had to do a redo, but today's guest is Rilee Harrison. Welcome back again, Rilee. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back times two.
Welcome to the show again, Rilee. You brought so much wisdom in the last episode that I really want people to hear it and give them a really better quality, episode. And it was on my side. I apologize about the tech difficulties. For anybody that's listening to this, I switched over from Mac to PCs, and I switched over as part of the scaling project from Google to Microsoft. And it has not been without its technological hiccups for somebody like me. I've been using Macs for like 20 years. So Rilee, let's just jump right in really quick because you brought so much impact. And Rilee is a personal injury attorney from Cain Injury Lawyers in Oklahoma, and they're just doing some amazing stuff. So Rilee, first thing that we talked about, and I want to just jump right back into the conversation is, you've been very open about not passing the bar the first time and how that shaped and changed your mindset going forward. So let's talk about that. A lot of people can relate to this or will relate to it, and I think it's an important message.
Yeah. So growing up, everything I had always done, I had always been like really involved in it, right? I was the president of this, the that of that. And really, I had just kind of skated by on being a good dude and having a good personality. You know what I mean? Like that's how I'd gotten to where I was. Not much hard work involved. And so whenever I didn't pass the bar exam, it was one of those situations where I really looked at it and I realized that like it was on me. Like it was I knew what I needed to do to pass it, and I didn't put the effort in. And I made myself a promise at that time that I didn't want to ever feel that way again. Like if I failed or I didn't live up to like the expectations I had, it wasn't going to be because I didn't put the work in, right? And so that moment changed everything for me. It put a chip on my shoulder. I started learning how to have structure in my life. I started learning how to have a regimen, have a process. I would work from 8 to 5. I went to the gym. I ate. I had my dinner. My girlfriend then, wife now, we allotted about 45 minutes or so to watch a show, do something together. And then I studied every night from like 8 to 12. That changed everything for me. I passed the bar flying colors that next time. And I took that mindset and that willingness to never feel that again into practice with me. And honestly, I know it's kind of a cliche. It's easy to say on the back end, but I don't think I would be where I am or have the success I've had if I had passed them on the first try. I think I needed adversity in my life, and I think I needed to learn how to overcome adversity. And I really think the true measure of a person is not how they handle in those good moments, how they handle that success. It's how they overcome those moments of being down. I think that's the true tale. That's where the winners shine through. And so, yeah, I think it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I'm open about it. As we talked about last time, my social media, I promised I would be myself. I'd be authentic. I'd be true. So I talk about it. I let people know about it. And I literally had a seasoned lawyer message me last night telling me he really appreciated me posting that because the same thing happened to him, but he didn't have the courage to like post about it, but it did change everything for him as well. And he really resonated with my story. So it's cool stuff.
And I agree with you. So again, I'm much older than you, right? And I've observed over the years boom and bust cycles where when the economy's good, everybody thinks they're Einstein. Everybody thinks they're the next coming of Steve Jobs. What separates the wheat from the chaff is how many down cycles have you survived? That's what tells you who will be left. It's not who's the best. It's who's left at the end of the game, right? People often look at me like I'm crazy too, because I talk about one of the biggest highlights in my life was getting my black belt in jiu-jitsu. right? Because it was nonstop adversity. It was nonstop resilience building and humbling. And so I 100% agree with you on that. And I think that I was talking to a young lawyer, and I hope she's listening to this. And I consider her a lawyer. She's really a hustler, like you're describing, right? And she went through something like this. So I hope she hears this, because my response was the same as yours. Like, hey, don't limit yourself. Don't say, oh, I'm only taking it one more time. Because what happens if you don't pass it? You did all this work. You take it until you're a licensed lawyer in your jurisdiction. So I think it's a great message. Tests are always going to have failures, right? Especially with what we do. One of the biggest failures I had was we lost a trial last year that I thought was a dead bang winner. You don't fold up. We're on appeal now, right? You don't fold up just because you have one loss.
Well, I'll tell you this. The first firm I worked at, main partner is a great dude, but he had never really trained anyone. And I didn't pick up on like some of the things that my skill set was not his. And so I just didn't, I needed more training. I needed more hand holding early in my career. I needed more learning, and they didn't really have an established program for that. So it just really wasn't a great fit for me. I was literally thinking about leaving law. I was thinking about going into sales, doing something like that. I didn't know, not law. And it was a very tough time that first 9 months practicing law. And then I saw an opportunity at a firm that had trained lawyers. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go give it a shot, right? I go over there, I learned systems, I learned processes, and I really flourished. I really kicked ass over there. But what was funny about it is that I started there January of 2020. So 3 months in, the world shuts down. And I'm like, man, I finally found a place. I'm crushing it. And then this is what happens. But I actually used that opportunity as well, really well. Kind of that whole, mindset that I had done is I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity. Two things happened. One, the insurance companies wanted to resolve cases, especially the type of law I was doing at the time of workers' comp. So we absolutely crushed in March and April of that year. And so they loved me. They gave me a raise during that time, said they wanted to keep me. The other thing that happened is because COVID happened, the court shut down. And my boss was in his 60s. He didn't want to be anywhere near the court. So he was like, hey, we have this backlog of work comp trials that need to happen. He goes, I trust you. You should do them. And I was like, okay. He goes, I'll train you. He goes, but you're going in blind on your first one because I'm not going to the court. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I did 17 bench trials in 5 months, about a year into practicing law, and had awesome success with them. And that gave me confidence and courage to start trying jury trials and doing everything else. So, I think you just have to take advantage of every opportunity and know that even when those setbacks happen or it doesn't look good, you really write your own destiny. I mean, you have to have a good attitude about it. You have to make good strategic choices for yourself. But, and some of it's luck, but I think luck's when preparation meets opportunity, right? So.
Yeah. Look, I think it was Winston Churchill that said, don't let a good crisis go to waste, right?
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
Every crisis, there is a tremendous opportunity, and millionaires will be made. And then there will be people that call it a day and they just pack it in. And that's the difference, right? That's the separator. It's how you weather the trials and tribulations of life. Nothing is winning all the time. Yep. Period. Hard stop.
The other thing is as a young lawyer, you know what else is hard? How to react when you do win. How to not get a big head about it. How to have people in your office that have been doing this 20, 25 years that are legal assistants, paralegals, things like that actually want to work with you and stuff. So it's all hard. Losing's hard. Winning's hard. It's all hard to navigate as a young person in the workplace. It really is. And I think you have to be humble. Yep. You have to listen to when you're losing or when you're winning. You need to listen to the people around you and be willing to shift your mindset of what you're doing, regardless of either way, because both have their challenges. Trust me.
Absolutely. Listen, and if you don't, life will humble you the other way too, right?
Oh, yeah.
I won my first trial, which winning your first trial is kind of like, it's what happened when first time I went to Atlantic City. My father took me to Atlantic City. It was my 24th birthday and I win. And I'm like, this shit is easy. And next thing you know, I'm playing all night, but the house always wins, right? And I had a similar experience. I won my first trial. I come back. I'm driving back from court. I get a jury verdict, right, on a small case. But I call my boss. I'm like, I'm the man. I'm the man. And he's like, hey, kid, till there's more zeros in this, act like you've been in the end zone before. And that humbled me right away because this was a guy who's seen everything, you know. But again, it's all iterations. This is all the learning process of what you do and how you do it. So switch gears with me for a second. So if anybody's listening to this, I would urge you to go to X, which was formerly Twitter, and put in Rilee's handle at Rilee Harrison, and you'll see Bard and Bearded, and you'll see a picture of Rilee. That's how I found you. I first found you. I'm scrolling through Twitter. I'm like, I want to try to see if I can get the hang of this X thing and start working the network. It's really difficult now. I don't know if it's still the same, but I was having a lot of trouble getting any lift on it social media wise. But I found you, and you had such an engaging presence. So talk to anybody that's listening to this on how you leverage social media and networking in general and how you started, what channels you pick. Like give everybody kind of the breakdown on what you do and how you do it now.
Yeah. So at my second firm, my buddy of mine, let's call him Frank, I saw him post on Facebook that he was in a car accident that night. And it was bad. I mean, it was the back end of if someone was in the back seat, they're probably not alive. But I'm like, I text him, I go, dude, are you okay? And he said, yeah, I'm sore. He goes, but like, I'm going to go home. Like, I think I'll be okay, but like, I am sore. I said, all right, well, if you're more sore tomorrow, call me. He calls me. He's in bad shape. So I get him signed up. At that time, I'm really just doing workers' comp. I'm really not even touching third-party cases yet. And his case takes about 3 or 4 months. It settles. I get a call from the senior paralegal, and she said, hey, by the way, your cut is like $12,500. And I said, $12,500? I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to bring cases in. That sounds way better. You're telling me that's how this works? And so I started thinking to myself, okay, how can I leverage what I've done? Because I had always been super involved in stuff, right? Like in my university, I was outstanding junior, outstanding senior. I was, president of this, the chair of this. I did the same thing in law school. I did the same thing in high school. So I had 3 sets of people that I all knew and all knew me as like the guy that like does those things, right? And I already had like 4,000 friends on Facebook, a few thousand friends on Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that. And I was like, how can I utilize these social media as how I network in person? So I started getting really involved with my local bar, local Plaintiff Lawyers Association, meeting people that didn't do workers' comp, that started referring me some of those cases. And then some of those lawyers also started referring me some of their smaller cases. Now I get 6- and 7-figure trucking cases referred to me by lawyers in my network because they know I can handle those now. They don't do that particular type of work or whatever. So that's how it happened. Like personally, was getting really involved in that. I'm the youngest board member for the Oklahoma Association for Justice. So that's helped a ton with that and just getting, that trust with people. On the flip side, though, it was like, okay, I know I can do this in person because it's what I've done forever. Right? That's just who I am. How do I utilize social media to leverage like a network outside of this? And I was like, well, Facebook really isn't the audience for that, right? Because I'm not going to just add random attorneys across the country on Facebook. I was like, but Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, those things are, right? I was young. I wasn't super serious. And so I gravitated towards Twitter because I could just be myself and be funny on there. And stuff just kind of started going viral on me. Started having posts that were getting, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 impressions at a time. And then those posts started getting posted from Twitter, screenshotted, and put on Instagram accounts that had 250,000, 500,000 posts. And it all kind of started snowballing and going viral. But my thought process was like, know my audience on my different stuff, right? Like Twitter was other attorneys across the country. Anytime I saw an attorney that I thought posted anything interesting, I would follow them. I did that for a while. Eventually I had to stop because I'm like, I can't follow this many people. So I started paring it down. But that's kind of how it started snowballing and blowing up on me on that, is posting content, engaging, again, being authentic, being myself. LinkedIn, I really wasn't involved in. I've really got more involved with LinkedIn over the last probably 3 to 6 months with LinkedIn. I really have been enjoying it. I post more serious stuff, but I'm starting to show my personality on there as well. And I really enjoy that as well. But I think the biggest thing is that 1, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. 2, know your audience on what you're posting on, right? Like if you're on a certain social media, like my Facebook posts are for my friends and family, right? Like if I post something about work, which I do, I want my friends and family to know what I'm doing. That's different than posts where I'm just trying to show other attorneys like who I am and what I do, right? And that's more like Twitter, LinkedIn, things like that is what I use that for. Instagram, I've never really gotten into it for like work purposes. I have a little bit, but nothing too crazy. It's just not really my deal. And I'll tell you, we actually didn't get this last time. This is another thing you have to navigate as a young lawyer, right? Is that I don't own a firm, right? And I've never owned a firm. So if I'm out there doing advertising looking videos that are like me advertising, me talking about the law, me doing those things, that's really me. Those aren't business to business. Those are more public stuff, right? So that would be me competing against my firm. So you have to be careful on that as a young lawyer, to not compete against your firm, not piss people off. Now, the business to business stuff, that's fair game. And I think that is where, as a young lawyer, you really need to make your bread and butter is meeting as many attorneys as possible. You can do that through local networking, or you can do that through social media networking, which I've done both.
Right. And look, I think that, again, what you're saying is, I think it's brilliant. You said just show up, establish yourself on social media. But more than that, what was super successful is the authenticity,
100%.
right? Everybody in person has a bullshit meter. Well, guess what? Online, it's the fastest way to lose people if you pretend you're something you're not, right? And one of my big gripes about LinkedIn, I'm not enjoying it as much anymore, is the lack of authenticity. There's a couple of very popular services out there that are good, but it loses its authenticity if everybody's writing 5 paragraphs long about their personal injury, war stories, and stuff like that. Listen, I just want to hear what people are really thinking, right? Now, I'm not taking any business away from any of these services or anything like that, but I think what makes you engaging, and some of my highest engaging posts are the super authentic stuff I would say with my door closed to another lawyer, right? And that's what I did with LinkedIn. And I focused on LinkedIn first, not so much X, but I did exactly what you did. I studied the landscape and said, because I was always like you, super networker, super connected to everybody in the industry, everybody in the community across the country. How do I magnify that using social media? And it was just about showing up, having the conversations, and being authentic, like you said, right? You can move into paid, sure, but that's different. That's now moving into the realm of advertising, right? That's just different. So I think what you did was special, though. Like, if people are listening to this and they want to kind of understand social media, organic social media, they should follow you on all the platforms because you've mastered it. You really have mastered it, and it's paying off. I mean, how many personal injury cases have you gotten organically from social media in the last 5 to 7 years?
Yeah, over 250. I think the last 3 years I've averaged about 45 to 50 new cases a year that I've generated. So, and over the last 2 years, I've seen the value skyrocket on them, which has been really another interesting piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's not nothing, man. 50 cases a year, 250 cases. Then you take your average legal fee per file and multiply that. That's significant. Yeah. That's not nothing. And I think, I'm just predicting the future, but eventually you're going to be an owner of a firm. It's just a matter of time. And I think that I know your relationship with Monty. And, maybe talk about that because you have a special relationship with him. And I think you guys complement each other so well. So talk about your firm, the relationship with Monty, because what you have, I think, is rare. And I'm hoping that it becomes less rare as people progress through their careers.
Yeah. Whenever I've interviewed with Monty, I had never really met him before. I knew who he was, obviously, but I had never met him. I had met Anthony. And Monty and I sat down for like an hour and a half in the interview. And at the end of it, he just goes, "Hey, do you want to come work for me?" And I go, "I think I do." And he goes, "All right." He goes, "Come back on Monday. I'll have an offer ready, and let's see if we can get this done." I remember talking to my wife and being like, "Hey, this interview went really well. Like, I think this is what I want to do." And she was like, "Are you sure?" Because again, I was 2 years into the best job I've ever had, right? It was weird being in a position where I was finally happy and finally feeling like I'd made it in a position and everyone liked me at my office and all that. And then now I'm about to just kind of throw it all away to go try something new. But he did. I went that Monday, made the offer. My wife and I went to dinner afterwards, and we did literally a pros and cons chart. Pros were, more money, more potential, more all the things. And the con was really just, I was going to have to tell people that I really liked and had treated me really well that I was leaving. And I was like, okay, well, I got to make this decision for me, right? So I go with Monty. I end up accepting the job, give him my 2 weeks. I go over there, and it really just, he had a vision for like what he was building. And I just bought in with him, right? In the sense of bought in that, hey, like I'm going to treat this like this is my place as well. Yeah, I think owners of firms, the people that go in and they treat it like it's their firm as well. They treat it like, hey, I want this place to succeed. Like, I think he saw that in me and he knew that was something that I was about and that I was going to, put in that effort and put in that work just like he does to make this place something special, which I really think is what he created. And I've came in and helped add some fuel to the fire. But yeah, you're right. The compliment thing is interesting because I am more of that big personality. I enjoy the advertising. I enjoy the stuff. He was always kind of hesitant to it. So together we've talked through that and kind of pushed each other, in different ways on, okay, well, you need to be more conservative here, Rilee. Well, you need to be more aggressive here, right? And then we've really been a nice kind of ice and fire on that, on the marketing side of things and the relationship side of things and some of those deals. But I think that it really goes back to, as an own lawyer, I think I said this in the last one, pick something, like realize something you're good at and go all in on that lane, right? Something that I realized I was good at was business generation, relationships with people and things like that. And so I just kept doing that naturally on my own. And eventually it was, hey, you're doing this so well for yourself. I haven't seen anyone, this young do that type of like bringing cases in like this. It's kind of unheard of. Why don't you start learning how to do this with me as well for the firm? And so I knew that was a lane that I always wanted to be in. The two things I want to be is I want to be a hell of a trial lawyer. I want to be getting 6, 7, 8-figure verdicts on the regular. And I want to be kind of the person who's the public, the people, everyone trusts and knows that if I'm involved in it, it's going to be a success. And that's how I generate business in, right? And so those are the two things like I wanted to do. And so I think he saw that in me and that resonated. And because I understood that lane, I got good at that lane, that opened me up to get to be a part of the firm with him, doing that lane for the firm with him as well. So it's obviously his show, but he does, I think, trust me a lot. And I think trust is a big part of it too, right? Whenever you're someone that's poured all of your blood, all of your equity, all of your sweat, all of your money into a business for 15, 20, 25 years, it's really hard to trust and put trust into someone else that's not you. And so I think as a young person, building that trust with the owner of the firm, that is one of the most crucial things that you can do. And that takes a lot of time. So,
yeah, I think the magic in any relationship from a business owner standpoint, because I'm on the other side, right?
Yeah.
You really want two things. I want people that are authentically themselves, and that means there are going to be differences, right? Mm-hmm. But what I want is alignment on the core things, vision, the mission, the core values. And so I think that's the magic sauce. If people are authentically themselves and they don't back down on the differences, that's okay. You said something I think that makes everybody better is you guys push each other to be outside of your normal wheelhouse and normal boxes. That makes you both better, but you have alignment on the other stuff that really matters to the business, right? The role of, community involvement. You're both aligned. The role of your core values of putting clients over profits, people over profits. So to me, I think that's what makes your relationship so magical. And what you guys are building, I'm trying to bring awareness because you guys are in a state where, like you were joking around the last time about Oklahoma and how there's like running jokes about the Starbucks in Oklahoma. But I mean, you guys are doing some magical stuff that don't sleep on the Cain Injury firm or what Rilee and Monty are building, because it's pretty impressive to watch. I'm excited to see what you guys are building.
Yeah, Monty's had an incredible vision for it. And, I think he's hired extremely well. No, I'm kidding. But he's bringing Anthony on like 10 years ago. And then me, I think that, he was slow to hire. And I think he picked some good people that values do align with his. And it's a slow process. But that once that snowball kind of starts rolling down the hill, it's been pretty fun to watch. And it's been an honor to be a part of it. I feel truly blessed to get to learn learn and work with him and Anthony day in, day out, because they're just fantastic people, fantastic lawyers, but fantastic people, which is what really matters and makes the day in, day out of what we do. The long days don't seem as long when you enjoy the people you're doing it with.
100%. And how old are you, Rilee? I know I asked this last time.
34.
Yeah. So the reason why I wanted you back on is you are really wise beyond your years. Like at 57, I have the epiphany of I only want to work with people that I respect and truly enjoy being around. Right. And, that's just one of my core values is people first. The other one is kind candor. So I believe in just being direct but kind to people when we're talking and communicating, because nobody benefits from not doing that. And I know that, your core values and Monty's core values are fully aligned in terms of the firm's core values. Quick break to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is supported by TonaLaw, a modern law firm built on integrity and innovation. Learn how they're changing the game at TonaLaw.com. Attorney referrals accepted from across the country. You'll see what it's like when you send us a case. You'll have some happy clients. Talk about your North Star core value and how it aligned with Monty and how that's impacted your firm, your decision-making, stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's definitely do what's right for the client every single time. And what I will tell you is, and this is part of that, kind of that, what I alluded to on the success at a younger age or whatever you want to call it, is hard too, right? Obviously, in our industry, if you bring the case in, you get a larger percentage of it, right? So as a young person who is doing that, who's never made any money before, who's never had any of that before, you really have to stay grounded. You really have to put the client first. Otherwise, you're going to be making decisions that aren't best for them and are best for you. I made a promise to myself several years back that I was not going to look at what my cut is. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to entertain that thought at all in my mind. I'm going to do what's best for that person. And I've made some decisions in the past where because the person is, someone I knew, or because of their story or because of whatever, I've given away my money, my personal money on cases because I felt like that person needed it more than I did. And I felt like it was the right thing to do. Believe it or not, those decisions have paid off in spades for me with new cases they've sent me and even bigger cases and things like that. It didn't have to do that for it to be right. I saw it quickly, especially on one of those decisions I made. But I truly, truly believe that if I do what is best for the client every time, whenever I'm at the end of my career and I have gray hair or no hair, whichever one I end up having, I am going to. There, you like that, Tommy?
I did because I used to have a full head of hair.
But whenever I'm at that point in my career, I do what's right for the client every single time. I'm going to be just fine. I'm going to have what I wanted. I'm going to have, and it's just as simple. I think the large goals are really just reached by hitting small goals every day, but almost just hitting your core values every day, right? And I know that it is as simple as doing what is right for the client every freaking time. If I do that, any major goal I have set will not happen if I don't have that core value and that goal. I'm not hitting that daily, making those decisions. I just think it's impossible to do the big stuff if I don't have that mentality and mindset every day.
Right. And the natural iteration of that too is it also is the same rule for your team, right? If you put your team and you do servant leadership and you put your team first and you believe in servant leadership and you instill in them, it's all about the client. It is a formula for success. You will be just fine. The money will flow because I've said this before. People care about results, but they really care about the experience. And if you're putting the clients first and you're putting the team first, everything has a way of working itself out. That's not saying it'll always be easy, but everything does have a way of working itself out for sure. 100%.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So I'm predicting a lot of change in legal. I've been saying this for a while because I've been studying the landscape. I feel like it's the owner of the firm's job to kind of prognosticate the future. And so I've been watching private equity, roll-ups, consolidation, and I see tremendous barriers for young lawyers, right? There's also tort reform that's kind of creeping throughout the country as well. And so what would you advise a younger version of yourself who's trying to navigate this uncertain landscape right now?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to shift a little bit from what I said last time. I think that one, you need to have a vision for what you want your future to look like, right? Like, is success to you having a one attorney shop with 1, 2, 3 assistants and running that? Is that what you want? Or is it a 5 attorney shop? Is it a 15 attorney shop? Is it a 50 attorney shop or 100 attorney shop? What is it you're wanting to build or be a part of, right? I think that is step one, is figuring out what your end goal is and then figuring out how to do that, right? If you are wanting to be a solo and have a smaller shop and stuff, well, it's probably going to be better to be in a smaller community, a smaller niche, network to your community, build a brand in your community, right? Run for city council, do some of those things in your local small community, do those things to build that brand in that sense. And the theme you're going to hear throughout this is building a brand, but there's different scales that you have to build a brand on, right? If you're wanting to do a 5 attorney shop, something like that, then that brand is going to need to be bigger. You're going to need to be comfortable putting some advertising dollars in eventually. You're going to need to be comfortable maybe taking a line of credit out to do that. You're going to have to be comfortable with maybe when you were that one person shop and you got that fee that was, $1 million fee, you're going to be comfortable with not buying the house and the car and putting that money back in to the advertising to build that brand. And then if you're wanting to do a 15, a 25, a 50 attorney firm someday, if that's what your goal is, it's really the bigger that the firm you're wanting to build, the bigger brand you're going to need to build, in my opinion. And you can do that a few ways. You can do that locally if you're smaller, but the larger you get, the larger that brand has to be, the larger that footprint has to be. And I think that doing that with being cost efficient, social media probably is the best way to do that. I think going to conferences and meeting attorneys across the country where you get to join those listservs across the country, some of those things, those are ways to grow your practice on a large scale. But it's really about, one, figuring out what your goal is, what you want to be, how big you want it to be, and then just realizing how big of a brand you need to grow or build to support that size of firm. I think that is the key as a young lawyer.
Yeah. I mean, look, I could tell you something that you brought to mind as you were kind of unpacking that, which is this. A lot of it has to do with self-awareness and intentionality. Right.
100%.
And so that's a twofold equation. So for the young lawyers listening to this, what I thought was important is you actually sat down and mapped this out. Like, this is not an accident that you ended up financially or success-wise where you are at your young age. You sat down and mapped this out. You actually did a pro and con list with your life partner, your wife, before accepting the role, right? You were authentic and you were self-aware and you were intentional. So for the flip side of that is, for the owners listening to this, you also have to be self-aware. You also have to be intentional. And that initial interview process, what I find where it happens the best, and I found unicorns, I was doing the interviews because I always am working on communication and self-awareness and authenticity. I don't want certain people to be attracted to my firm if my core values don't align with them, right? Or they don't resonate with them. And similarly, if for the young lawyers listening to this, if you show up for an interview, be authentic. Don't just sell yourself and then go to a firm that you're actually going to hate working at, right? So like Rilee, if you went to a firm that was like, I don't want social media marketing, it's all crap, you would have left.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that self-awareness, authenticity, and intentionality that you're talking about is super important. That's what you're unpacking, right? You're saying to somebody, know your strengths. You're saying to somebody, like, sit down and map out the firm you want. I can't tell you the number of lawyers I talk to that are firm owners, and most of what's driving them is ego-driven and how much of their self-worth is tied to their name on the door, even though they actually hate being owner of the firm. And they can't get there because they're married to it.
I think what we talked about earlier too, on figuring out what you want your lane to be, right, in the firm, you have to understand that different lanes require different time, different efforts, different things. There are roles as lawyers that you can have as more of a support role, more of a, brief writing role, more of a kind of case pusher type role that you can do in 40 hours a week, right? That you really can. But there's roles like those, the trial attorney role. There's roles like the person who is at every business dinner, who is at every, who's out at all those things that are not going to be 8 to 5. They're not. And so if you want to have one of those roles, you have to make a conscientious choice with yourself that that's what you're going to do and that you're comfortable with doing those things that take you to get to that point. If you're married and you have a life partner, a spouse, you have to be in line with them that, hey, this vision that I have for what my career is going to look like is not going to be a 9 to 5 thing. I'm still going to show up for you. I'm still going to show up for our kids. I'm going to do it in my way. We're going to make this work. But I've got to have more time in the office to be able to do what I do in my role. And I think that mapping it out aspect, that seeing where you want to be and figuring out how to get there is so, so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, and I'm going to say this. I'm now talking to people that are 20 to 25 years into their career. And they're just kind of bobbing along the ocean, if you picture like a float on the ocean, because they have not sat down and done that exercise. They have not taken the time on a Saturday with a yellow pad and put on noise canceling headphones and just mapped out their life. So I've always done that. And maybe because I'm always involved with all these masterminds and I've been going to a business executive coaching program for 15 years, whatever. But the value that will give you in your career, in your professional life cannot be oversold. Like it is super valuable. And where I have seen things fall apart is people show up at interviews on one side of the table or the other, selling something that's not really self-aware. Like don't sell a law firm on core values of people first, but you throw laptops across the office. Just say you're a money first firm. You'll attract people that are money first and you'll repel people that you think are too woo-woo or too, just know who you are as a firm owner, as a candidate or a young lawyer or a paralegal coming in. Like that cannot be overstated enough. And I think it's tremendous what you just said. And it really triggered that recall for me because I can't tell you how many times I've been sold at an interview and I know in 30, 60 days, that person's not going to make it.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So, and we all go into it with the best intentions. Like just show up, know who you are, what your firm stands for as the owner, know who you are and what you stand for as an attorney and an individual. That's why I think you and Monty mesh so well. Because you showed up as your authentic self with self-awareness and intentionality, even at your young age. And he showed up the same way. Because I met him, through our podcast together. And I found those same things to be true. I can see why that chemistry is so strong now.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. There's no doubt. And he's helped me grow too. I mean, I was a 30-year-old when I met him. Now I'll be 35 this year. So it's fun to see probably how he's shaped my growth the last 4.5 years. So
it's amazing. It's amazing to see what you're doing. And, I didn't have that mentorship coming up. I had to kind of create it with coaching and, trial and error, to be honest with you. So I think it's awesome. I want to land this plane with, a couple of, rapid fire questions, which I started to like to do. One book that every lawyer should read.
As far as a trial lawyer, I think Rules of the Road should be the Bible, probably first thing you read, Rick Friedman. And then I really like anything by David Ball and, Keenan. I think their stuff, the original Reptile stuff, and then the Ball on Damages and all that is fantastic. I guess I'm saying multiple books. And then I've gotten into the Keith Mitnick. I'm reading Don't Eat the Bruises right now. I love that. So I think that that theme of any of those books are where it's at. But if you're interested in learning the business side of it, I think the Fireproof book by Mike Morris is second to none. I think it's a phenomenal read. And as someone who does enjoy the business side, who enjoys the marketing, the intake, all of that, that book was a very, very interesting read. And it's also going to shape how we do some marketing moving forward with the cherry be, in a world of vanilla, be cherry Dr. Pepper basically is what it, or cherry Garcia.
Right.
I love that. So anyways, I think that those would be whichever lane you're in, I think those would be the books I would look at.
It's funny, and we can conclude it with this, and I really appreciate all the time you're talking about, but I'm going to be curious to see where you land down the road, because I've always said, I chose to focus on the business of law. That's been my lane for 15 years. We're humming at a different level now because of that focus. But I could not strike the balance between staying and trying the cases. So now I have lawyers that work for me that do that. I know one or two lawyers that can do both, that they've scaled these monster law firms and still try the cases, but I find it really rare. So I'm going to be curious to have you back on to talk about how you find it and striking that balance. So at this point, I want to say thanks again for coming on. I know I had to have you come on a second time. Is there anything else you want to leave us with, or you just want to tell us where people can find you?
Nothing else. Just again, I think the authenticity thing is huge. If you are a younger lawyer or an older lawyer, and or more seasoned, I should say, not older, but either way you're at, if you ever want to talk to me, if you're an owner and you've got, you're wanting to talk about what to look at for an associate or anything like that, I'm happy to talk to you. If you're a younger lawyer or someone in law school that is trying to figure out how their career is going to progress, what they want to do, I'm happy to talk to you. I'm always willing to make those relationships, build those relationships, and get to know people. You can find me on, obviously, the social medias. If you look at Rilee Harrison, which is Rilee, so Rilee with two E's, and then Harrison, you'll find me on pretty much anything that way. And then my email is Rilee, Rilee, at TonalLaw-okc.com. So either of those routes are perfectly fine. I look at my DMs, I look at my emails daily. So
awesome, man. Thanks for coming on, Rilee.
Thank you for having me on. It means a lot.
No, thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by TonalLaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. TonalLaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. Do you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals? Check out TonaLaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you.